Welcome to Feed the Blender. Welcome to Feed the Blender, boys. Good to be back here. It's a sunny day out west. How is it by you guys?
63.
Nice day.
Yeah.
Can't complain. Can't complain then. Could be a lot worse. Before we get into our breakdown of the Northwest Division, a couple things we had to touch on since the last episode we recorded. News from the Boston side of things. Ime Udoka suspended for 1 year at least. A lot of people don't even think he's going to come back to the franchise. I guess he had a consensual / non-consensual relationship, and or things were said with a female subordinate in that Boston franchise. An internal investigation went through it, found him to be guilty of it. We won't say too much more on it just because there's really not a ton of information out there on it. So
Yeah, they really kept that like under wraps for the most part. I know it's like a recent like finding and like display, but they really haven't touched on it past like him just being suspended for a year. So
right. So it's a bummer for a team that was obviously coming off of a finals run and had hopes and aspirations of another finals run.
that change where they finish, you think?
Not by much. I still think they're a great team with a lot of guys who have played together for a long time, and you got a lot of mentally tough guys on that team. So you figure they're still probably going to be right around that win total of like 53, 55-ish, like in that range.
Yeah, I guess the biggest telltale will be like what happens in the playoffs and see like if they go up against like Coach Bud or Spoelstra or Doc Rivers, like that's a tough task for the interim head coach to go up against. So.
Right. So it's a bummer, but as we said, not a ton of information on it. So we'll just move on. And another news down in Miami, speaking of Spoelstra, they signed Tyler Hero. What was the total numbers for the contract?
4 years, 130 million.
Oof. Man got
A lot
paid.
of cash. That's a lot of cash. For a 6-man.
Good 6-man. 6-man of the year.
It's fair. It's just a lot of coin.
A lot of coin. I mean, it's not like they were giving it to anyone else, right?
It's fair.
They're not going to give an extension to Duncan Robinson. So
he already made his bag. He's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much the most important stuff that's gone on in the last couple of weeks here, at least that I can think of off the top of the head here. So
yeah, other than Victor Wembanyama's game against Scoot, there's really, preseason's been starting. I think we're in game 2 now. Other than that, yeah, not a ton. So I think we can just move straight into Denver. I believe Zerch, you covered Denver.
Yeah. Yep. Just a few notes on Denver. I would say out of like all of the teams that made like significant moves this offseason, Denver's right behind Atlanta for at least like the most successful offseason with bringing in KCP, Ish Smith, and then Bruce Brown. Really added to areas in which they lacked last year, which was 3-and-D, and then Bruce Brown's just a really solid guy that who's pretty much going to get a lot of rotation at the 3 and the 4 for them. So Bruce Brown last year, at least, and like for the last 2 years, his field goal percentage has been up over 50, and then he shot over 40% from 3. So
yeah, he took a huge jump from 3.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge guy to come off the bench, and he was putting up almost 15 a game in the postseason last year, even though it was only 4 games, but still decent numbers from a role player. He should walk in and fit pretty well there. Obviously, I think KCP is a really like underappreciated asset that they got in that trade.
Big time.
Just a 3-and-D guy, spreads the floor well. I think that he's a day one starter, in my opinion. Like he's going to be thrown right in at the 2.
Yeah, for sure.
And I mean, like again, 3-and-D, unselfish. He's won a ring. Like, he knows how to get it done. So that's going to be huge for them. I think their starting five is pretty much the most cut and dry that we've covered so far, probably outside of Milwaukee.
Right.
Obviously, Jamal Murray, he'll be coming back from his ACL. As long as he maintains that same sort of pace that he was putting up in 2020, 2021, like, they're going to be a huge threat to deal with.
Yeah.
So I have Murray at the 1, KCP coming in at the 2, MPJ at the 3, Aaron Gordon at the 4, and then Jokic at the 5. So I think the biggest telltale sign for there are two key things that I think need to happen for Denver to make a serious run here is Jamal Murray needs to pick up where he left off, and Michael Porter Jr. needs to stay healthy. I think if MPJ can stay healthy, like the one full year that he played, or almost full year that he played, putting up 19 a game, and his stats were really good. A little bit of a liability defensively, and like he could improve at least his efficiency, like offensively, but that's a scary like starting 5 there, because I mean there are 3 to probably 4 dudes that can walk in and give you at least 20 every night. So again, it's basically the same returning starting 5, or what they would have preferred to start last year. KCP being the biggest or the newest acquisition to that. And
then,
I mean, we all forget that Jeff Green's a huge part of that like second unit as well. So I mean, having him and Bruce Brown, like they're going to be diverse at the 4. So I mean, it's going to be pretty interesting to see how they get all these guys mixed in. And I think Jokic was the one who said it, that like Jeff Green is his favorite teammate that he's ever played with, which is pretty wild. So I would imagine that Jokic's numbers are going to take a slight dip, like scoring wise next year, just due to the fact that Murray is coming back and he doesn't have to do nearly as much. But
I think Jokic would probably prefer that. I don't think he was necessarily excited to be having that much of a usage in that role that he had to take on last year without Jamal Murray. I'd assume he wouldn't be very upset of having maybe like a 5 or 6 point dip.
And I mean I understand like there's a reason why he was back-to-back MVP, but his numbers last year were nuts.
Yeah,
like 27 a game. Yeah, 27 a game, 7.9 assists, almost 14 boards, 58 field goal percentage, 1.5 steals, 1 block. Like the picture perfect definition of like a team's MVP. So yeah. My biggest note on Denver is I think that they are scary for next year. That is a team that it could take them the first half of the season to really get going and hit their stride. But I mean, if they were to finish around like a 5 seed or even at worst a 6, I mean, that's a scary team that I don't want to go up against if I'm in that top 4 in the West. Mm-hmm. So, and I think I think a lot of the top 5 or 6 positions in the West are all pretty much a toss up on where everybody could finish like at the end of the year. Yeah. So Denver is definitely not a team that I want to play in the first round.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Denver is probably going to be competing for a ring this year. They're definitely a top 3 talent-wise. They're a top 3 team in the West. As you said, with the acquisitions of Bruce Brown and, you know, like guys like Ish Smith, like KCP. I mean, they're actually a lot deeper than they were a year or 2 ago when Jamal Murray was healthy.
Right.
I mean, they're just as good as anyone else in the West.
Yeah, and they drafted Colin Gillespie. Big E shout out.
Yeah, I was waiting to get that in there. Shout out Colin Gillespie. He whooped my ass many times. I've seen that dude have some big performances in clutch time live.
Yep. Nova.
What
happened? But I mean, past that, there's really not much to say besides for the fact that Denver is going to be a legitimate team to be worried about next year. So
yeah, and we did forget about Bones Highland. That dude can play.
Is that who they drafted? I'm not familiar.
No, he was rookie last year.
Got it.
just keep that name in mind. He's gonna put up numbers this year. He'll be in that second unit, but that dude can play.
Hell yeah. Yeah, they'll be a fun team to watch, that's for sure.
KZ, any notes?
Oh no, nothing from me. I will agree though that they are probably a top 3 team and should make a real legitimate run toward in the playoffs and to a finals, as they have been looking good over the past years and getting a lot better. They're a scary team coming out of the West for sure.
Especially if they finish higher on in the regular season too. And like some of like the tougher teams end up like getting matched up together. Like they seriously could go all the way just based off of how they finish in the regular season.
Yeah, if they have home court, there's really no reason to get knocked out in the first round. And it would be actually surprising if they didn't make it to the conference finals if they have home court advantage.
Yeah, I agree. I think that leads us to Minnesota, right?
Yes, sir. Coming off of probably their best season in quite some time, at least in recent memory. They finished 46-36 under Chris Finch. Good for 7th in the West. Won the play-in game championship, as Bontemps calls it. The scenes of Pat Bev running around with his jersey off, crying into the crowd. Still
put up on the sports table.
But it's Minnesota. I mean, they haven't done anything. I don't think they've won a playoff series since KG was on Minnesota. So, I mean, it's huge. It was huge for them.
Yep.
And they look to build off of that. They make a huge blockbuster trade. Rudy Gobert comes in. They get rid of Malik Beasley, Pat Bev, and Jared Vanderbilt in that. Couple of picks, and by a couple, I mean 5 picks.
A handful.
Yeah, just a ridiculous amount, an unprecedented amount. However, they were able to keep Jaden McDaniels, which it was a huge piece for them last year and is going to probably be in the starting lineup for them at the 3 spot. So nice 3-and-D guy that they were able to keep. They also brought in Kyle Anderson from Memphis, who's going to be great on the second unit, as well as Bryn Forbes from San Antonio. Obviously like a 40% 3-point shooter, just an absolute sharpshooter. So while they got rid of, 3 key rotation guys in that trade, they also brought in some guys who are going to be able to come and help right away. So
yep.
All was not lost in that blockbuster trade, but the starting lineup's going to be pretty much the exact same for them, I'd assume, with the exception of Rudy Gobert at the center. And it'll probably allow Cat to kind of just roam around the perimeter, get guys with pump fakes and be able to drive in. Their spacing is going to be interesting to watch. It's going to be really reliant on guys hitting open shots. And if they can do that, this team is going to be really good offensively. As far as
did they have start last year, or was it still D'Lo?
I believe, yeah, Pat Bev was off the bench.
Yeah. Sorry, continue.
You're fine. But speaking of D'Lo, the pick and roll between him and Gobert is going to be really fun to watch. Obviously, Cat's not the greatest roller, so I mean, Gobert's going to get his in this offense, which is good for him. That's what he wasn't getting in Utah, especially come playoff time. So I think all parties are going to be happy. And look, if they even win up like one series in the playoffs, that's the finals for them. Like that's how down bad this Minnesota franchise is. That's how much they need a win. I mean, they haven't had any success in the last decade and a half, basically. So they're kind of all in, and we haven't even talked about the guy, but Anthony Edwards, they believe is that good. They believe he is that piece that they've been looking for. He's their D Wade. He's their, everything that they need. He's going to be the guy that's going to get them over the hump. And by all means, he's shown that early in his career. He's been frankly fantastic and put up some pretty nice numbers in the playoffs last year, even though it was only one round. But still, I mean, he's that good. The film doesn't lie. I don't know what your thoughts on Anthony Edwards are, but I'm sure they're probably pretty similar to mine.
Yeah, he's very good. I will say that. And I mean, I was listening to the Low Post, and whoever like covers them a lot was talking about how he's really developed this year as a passer as well, which is like a big area in his game where he lacked. But I mean, I feel like he's only going to get more efficient. Like I feel like a young talent like that, their biggest problem coming into their career is that they don't take the greatest shots, or like they force it up and it's not high percentage, but that can only get better. And I mean, he hits tough shots, he takes contested shots, and I mean, he's a very, very, very good young player. So I think they'll be an interesting team to watch next year. Might be a hot take, but I still don't think I see them making the playoffs outright. I still think they're going to be a playoff or a play-in team, but
I'm gonna go ahead and disagree with you on that one. This team is like readied to win regular season games. With Gobert coming in just defensively alone, they're gonna win regular season games. I mean, that's what Utah did when Gobert was their anchor. Gobert comes in instantly, they're a top 15 defense. I think they were right around top 15 last year, but they could even be a top 10 defense, and they're gonna have a top 10 offense as well. They're gonna win a ton of regular season games. I'm estimating over 50. I think they're that good.
There's probably a handful of teams in the West that you could say are going to win more than 50 games next year. So that's the tricky part.
Suppose I'm just saying, with all the weaknesses that they had last year, they plugged every single hole.
Right.
So
it'll be curious to see like what happens with their second unit. They need their second unit to come in and be able to put up points and not be stagnant, or they're just going to be SOL with their stars being off the court. So
yeah, and luckily with Gobert coming in, Cat's defensive, weaknesses. Yeah, his weaknesses on defense they'll be a bit more covered just because Gobert's that good, and Cat basically can guard whoever the worst shooter is on the opposing team, and he can just roam around. So, but yeah, I as far as Minnesota goes, I touched on it before. Jaden McDaniels, they kept him in that trade. He's pretty damn good. Good 3-and-D guy, kind of that Robert Covington build, 6'9", third year out of Washington. If they can get his 3-point percentage up to above 35, that's going to space the floor a ton for both Cat and Gobert. Problem is, it's not there, and he did shoot a pretty decent volume last year, so there were times that the offense did get stagnant. So if he starts shooting at a high clip, again, this team is going to be really, really good.
Especially if he sees him go in too. So yeah, they'll be interesting. I'm going to stay firm on mine. I think they're a play-in team, but
that's fair. As you said, I mean, the West is deep, but the thing is, the bottom of the pack is going to be so bad on both conferences that I think the teams that are going to be winning games are going to win a ton of games.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting because, like, okay, Golden State, they'll probably win more than 50 games. Memphis did the same. Like, yeah, Golden State, Memphis.
Memphis isn't winning more than 50 games.
It's the same team as last year, essentially.
Jaren Jackson Jr. is hurt.
That's fair.
We've seen multiple months of ball.
That's fair. We'll see.
They got rid of DeAnthony Melton and Kyle Anderson, 2 depth guys.
We'll see. I don't know. Everybody still has them up there. So
if I had to guess,
the top 3 team in the West is going to have less than 50 wins.
No, I think both conferences will probably have at least 2 over 50 win teams, if not 3. And then it's going to be a ton of teams around 45, and then it's going to be like 6 teams.
A bunch around 20.
Yeah. So But
Yeah.
you know,
I digress.
Yeah, it's like I said, they're gonna win a ton of regular season games, just again based off of defensive numbers. And a team that probably isn't going to win a ton, especially with Chet Holmgren going down. OKC, I believe you had some stuff on them.
Yep. Definitely gonna need some help on this one because this team is just full of young talent. But I mean, their biggest acquisitions this offseason was their draft class because they drafted 4 rookies. Obviously, Chet being the most important one out of all of them. Really unfortunate to see him go down for the year with that foot injury. But they drafted, ironically, 2 Jalen Williams and then Ousmane Dieng. And then the other notable thing from the offseason is they extended Lou Dort 5 years, $87.5 million.
That dude.
So, yeah, I think they'll be a lot of fun to watch like over the course of the next couple of seasons. Obviously, you don't really know what's going to happen this year with Chet going down. Looked good in summer ball. But I mean, they have a lot of options on how they can like put together starting fives and stuff like that. It's really tough to say because I know SGA is labeled a 2, but I feel like he's a natural point guard. Like in my opinion, he's just a little bit bigger than the stereotypical build.
They have him play the point there.
Right. So my like envisioned starting lineup for them right now is obviously Shai at the 1, Lou Dort at the 2, Giddey at the 3, Darius Baisley at the 4, who I think is hurt right now. And then ideally it'd be Chet at the 5, but I'm assuming Muscala is going to be that guy for the interim, unfortunately. So
we'll see, unless they have Poku there.
Could have Poku there. I almost threw him in just for your own appeal, but
I love Poku.
Decided to not. The one thing I want to see out of Shai, or the 2 things I want to see out of Shai this year is I just want to see him shoot the 3 a little bit more efficiently. I think he shot like barely, like not even 30% last year on high volume. So obviously want to see more of those go in. And he's averaging close to 3 turnovers a game. I understand like he's a young player and they're asking him to do a lot, but you got to work on keeping those numbers down. Same sort of thing out of Lou Dort. That dude is not afraid to rip it until he hits one.
He lets it fly.
Yeah. He's a fun young player to watch. I think his intensity for being like a small 2 guard is awesome. Like defensively at least. That clip of him either last year or in his like rookie season of him like locking up Harden like up and down the court is awesome. And I mean, you have to do stuff like that to be a successful like undersized player in this league. Biggest thing for him is he needs to improve his shooting efficiency. So shot 33% from 3 last year on what I would assume is extremely high volume. So
yeah.
So yeah, I have him as a starting 2, Josh Giddey at the 3. Giddey had a really, really solid rookie season last year, 12.5 points, almost 8 boards, and close to 6.5 assists. Be really curious to see if like what he does this year, if he takes like another leap. So he'll be fun. And then I think they have a lot of options at the 4. I think Darius Baisley is their ideal starter. But they have.
I think Jeremiah Robinson Earl is probably going to start at the 4. He showed really good minutes last year.
Yeah. So I literally have him, and then I have him, and then Jalen Williams. So it'll be really interesting, like these next couple of years for like these like rookie, sophomore, and like 3rd-year players to all just kind of like duke it out and push each other at practice to see like who ends up winning that starting job. So,
and this is a question to both of you guys. Do you think they'll compete this year, or do you think this is going to be another tanking year now that Chet's hurt?
It'd be smart to tank.
That's what I think. But it's also like if you're an OKC
what do you need
fan,
Chet and Victor for?
Well, who says Victor's? First of all, who says they get the first pick?
Sorry, I hear tanking and I assume first overall.
I mean, Chet was the second pick overall.
Chet was the second pick overall. It would be wild to see them draft Scoot and then, yeah.
KZ, what were you gonna say?
Oh, nothing. I was just saying, I think it'd be smart for them to tank again if one of what they thought would be their biggest impact players for this season probably is out. I mean, what are you going to do? You're in a tough division already. Are you going to go out there and try and get some mid-tier pick, or are you going to blow it and try and get another great player out of the draft?
The cheeky part through all of this is that they have 11 first-round picks through 2026 and 8 second-round picks through 2026. So, like, yes, they could tank and just get more picks, but I give it by Chet's third year, they get really aggressive in the offseason and like try and make some moves.
Yeah.
Especially if you see that development out of Giddey and they're like younger big guys. Like they will eventually be a force to reckon with. I honestly envision them finishing probably close to how they did this year, maybe a few more wins just based off of like your core young guys being, having that extra year of experience.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I don't think they have a very high ceiling this year.
I think you can also use some of those picks that they have as trade leverage in the future. So
100%, and that's what I'm insinuating is that they'll see how Chet does next year after hopefully he plays a full season, and then they'll take it to the next level and see what they can swing around. So,
and I think two things to keep in mind with this team is as a franchise, do you want to have another like purposely tanking season? Like, do you want to do that to your fans? And they do have really loyal fans that'll probably keep coming to the games, but it's like at a certain point, you start getting into that realm where they're just going to be historically bad, and you could start messing things up. Guys could start leaving, signing elsewhere, getting trade options. Like, do you want to keep doing that to your fans? Do you want to keep winning 20, 25 games a year?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, as you said, they're like the fans in OKC are loyal. And like, I think it'd be naive to say that they don't see the future behind like what this front office is doing.
Yeah.
Like the fan base there needs to understand, and they need to recognize that they need to trust the process, because obviously it worked out super well 10 years ago when they were able to draft Harden and KD and Westbrook.
Yeah.
Like those guys made a finals appearance early in their like young careers. So I understand like not wanting to be bad forever, but you gotta it's a give and take sort of situation. So
yeah.
So
and the other thing
go ahead. Sorry. I was just gonna say it'd be bad for a little bit of time with the outcome of hopefully being great or be average forever.
Yeah.
And then you can continue to try and win, and you're just an average team and you're never actually doing anything.
They just need to be aggressive. They just need to be aggressive in this next like couple of seasons here. So
I believe the old adage is strive for greatness by being terrible. But the other thing to keep in mind is how many more years do you want to waste of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's career? Like he's already.
This is going to be the last year.
We don't know. It's not for certain. So again, just keep that in mind.
And Bradley Beal had no problems with it. So.
And he continues to have no problems with it, and they continue to miss the playoffs year after year. So it's like, got the blueprint right in front of you.
Yep.
The only other thing I have on OKC was honestly just a shout out. It was just Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, Nova shout out. I do think they do have a young guy named Trey Mann, I believe out of Florida State. It's going to be damn good. Already showing great flashes.
10 points a game last year.
Yeah. For a 6'3" guy, I mean, he's long, like super lanky point guard. And yeah, he just does a lot of really nice things on the court. So just a name to watch out for. Other than that, I think we can move on to the Portland Trailblazers.
Alrighty. Well, starting off, going into Chauncey Billups' second year, not having the greatest first year with a 27-55, 13th in the West season, which really could probably be summed up to Dame going down in 29 games, really. So it gave the team a really good chance to both tank and allow young talent to start to shine, or you can see what you're starting to work with on the younger side of the team. You got guys like
Anthony Simons.
Anthony Simons, geez, and Nasir Little. So who are going to be bigger parts of the team in the coming seasons, obviously. They drafted Shaedon Sharp out of Kentucky, the Canadian 5-star recruit out of, where do you come from? Sunrise Christian Academy.
Ooh, SCA.
Who did not play a single game for Kentucky and opted into the draft immediately. So it's a interesting move, to say the least. Although he does have good upside. Could be a great player. We'll find out, I guess.
Yeah,
they signed Gary Payton II to a 3-year, $26 million deal.
Yep,
that's a good sign.
That is great 6-man. So, or I should say, a solid 6-man for them to have. And then they traded the draft rights of Gabriel Procia, a Italian league star, for a 2025 first round pick, 2025 and 2026 second round pick, and Jeremiah Grant. So that was an interesting move involving Detroit. If you guys have any comments on that.
Yeah, it was
Jeremiah Grant's a great player. Like, I was really disappointed when they traded him from Denver.
Yeah, they didn't have the cap space to keep him though when he was in Denver. He was too good for the role he was playing on that team. Yeah, it's a good pickup.
And then finally, one of the offseason moves is they signed for Big East Seton Hall superstar Jared Rhoden to a 1-year deal, which I think we'll touch on that a little bit later. Starting lineup wise, we're gonna expect to see Damian Lillard out there. I mean, he's the rock of that team, basically.
I thought Rhoden was gonna start at positions 1 through 5.
Well, considering he only got 5 minutes in the first preseason game, I'm not that hopeful.
Okay.
And then you're gonna have Simons at the shooting guard, Nasir Little at the small forward, Jeremy Grant power forward, and then Yusuf Nurkic at the center. And then, as we touched on, hopefully Gary Payton as the 6-man. So that's really who you're expecting to see a lot of production out of this year. So really, I mean, for this team to do anything, they're gonna have to step it up, basically, especially in the West. I mean, everything needs to go well for these guys. They need to avoid injuries of their stars. They need to win games that they should be winning. They need young guys to continue a positive trajectory, because especially if you're expecting them to be a big part of the team, you can't digress on, or can't step backwards in your production.
Yeah,
especially
I think this year is going to be a really big year for like Dame and like his legacy that he has in Portland, because like if you think about it, not even 3 or 4 years ago, like they were a team like making deep playoff runs, and since then they've been, you know, riddled with injuries, and then they decided to pitch CJ McCollum mid-season last year. So Dame, I feel like, needs to really like step up here and lead this like young core into some sort of promising future, or Portland's going to be stuck in the situation where they need to figure out what they want to do. Do they want to shop him and start from scratch, or are they just going to allow Dame to be what Bradley Beal is to Washington and just pay him and let him be the career guy there, and then
It's going to be the
comes
latter.
Yeah.
He's a career guy.
Yeah.
He's done more for that. He's probably the best player ever in that franchise.
Probably.
You can make the argument Clyde, but Dame's done more for that franchise than literally any other player. So they're going to pay him, and they're going to continue to have him on their roster until he retires.
Yeah, it's a really weird thing that I guess I just don't understand because I don't get paid millions and millions of dollars. But it's just like at the end of the day, like you're playing the sport because you love it and you're a competitor. Like at what point do you like not get frustrated with being like a part of an organization that doesn't put you in the right situation to win? You know what I mean? Like they did it for a little bit with like CJ and Dame, and then they just really chalked that up to we don't want to try and do that anymore last year. And I mean, like New Orleans won that trade.
Oh, big time. Yeah, big time.
Because like now New Orleans has a leader for their young core.
Mm-hmm.
And like I like New Orleans' future with what they have going on right now way more than I can even see some sort of light at the end of the tunnel for Portland.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, as you touched on earlier, I mean, they got to hit on a ton of things for this team in my opinion, for them to even be in the play-in. There's one thing that just on paper just screams at me, and it's they have zero interior defense. None. And that's so typical of a Damian Lillard-led Portland team. They just never get him any defense. They're always going to be a top 15 offense, but they're always going to be a bottom-of-the-pack defense, and that's why they fall short.
Right.
So
yeah.
You're gonna have to hope that.
Go ahead.
You know, like
KZ.
Oh, I was just gonna say they're gonna have to hope to outscore every team that they play.
And yeah, that's
Lions
been Dame's career. That's why he has to drop 50 every night. Every playoff game, he has to drop 50 or they're not going to win.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as you said, that Gary Payton, the second signing, was actually a pretty smart signing. I mean, he's going to come in and probably lock up the other team's best offensive player, and he's really their best wing defender at, what does he stand at, like 6'2"?
Something like that.
He can essentially guard 1 through 3, which is wild. Yeah, this team is, to me, a mid-30s win team. This is going to be a bottom of the pack. It's just such a bottleneck at that 10 to 6 spot in the West that I don't see room for Portland. I don't think they're better than those other teams in the West.
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't see them doing much. They needed Dame to get
all
hurt.
wrong.
Yeah, they needed Dame to get hurt this year.
Could you imagine they end up winning 50 games? We just sit here looking stupid.
It's fine. I'll look stupid over that. I'll take the under. Thank you.
I
was gonna say past that, is there really much to say on Portland? Is there anything encouraging to say about Portland?
Well, hold up. As KZ had said, and I'll refer to my Seton Hall notes.
Jesus Christ.
They sign what's really just a leader, a great locker room guy, a guy that's going to come in, play defense, hit open mid-range shots. Jared Rhoden, he was all conference last year at Seton Hall. I got to watch him develop all 4 years. 6'6", kind of hybrid. I would say he's like 2.5, basically in between a shooting guard and a small forward. Averaged 15.5 points at Seton Hall last year, about 1.2 assists and 6.7 boards. The boards actually is something he does really well. I think from sophomore year on, he averaged over 6 boards a game, which again, for a guy that plays the two, is pretty insane. we'll see if he gets any time. It's fun to see a Seton Hall guy on a roster. It's kind of crazy to see him on, Basketball Reference. But yeah, I think if he gets his chance, he's gonna take it. He showed great stretches in the summer league. He was one of their 3 best scorers on Portland. So, we'll see. We'll see if he has a good year. The only other guy I really wanted to touch on was Greg Brown. They drafted him as a lottery last year, 6'9" power forward out of Texas. Showed some good stretches. I think he's probably going to get right around 20 minutes a game this year. They don't have a ton of depth at the 4, so he, like I said, will get minutes. He can jump out the gym. My God, does that dude get up? Athleticism is off the charts. He really needs to focus on this year getting his outside shot underneath him and being able to defend 4s and 5s. You're not going to get any time on the court if you can't guard up a position. So I look for him to actually take a nice step and be a pivotal role in this rotation. And we'll see, with a guy like Damian Lillard, all you got to do is sit back and listen and learn, It's kind of like the rookies and, early guys' career or early in their career. That's kind of like the dream guy to have in your locker room. So we'll see what he does with that. But yeah, other than that, I think we can move on to the Utah Jazz. Yikes all around. They lose in the first round to Dallas this year. Fire Quinn Snyder, bring in Will Hardy, trade Royce O'Neal. And this is all before the Gobert trade and the Donovan Mitchell trade.
Yep, they're in shambles.
So we touched on it before. The Gobert trade was just massive. They get a ton of picks. I think 5 total if you include Kessler in that. Donovan Mitchell's trade was also massive. He goes to Cleveland. In return, Utah gets Lauri Markkanen, Ochai Agbaji, and Colin Sexton. They also get 3 unprotected picks and 2 pick swaps. They did end up trading Pat Bev for THT and Stanley Johnson, so they flipped that one pretty fast for some young talent. So, I mean, in theory, that was actually a really smart move for Danny Ainge. There's just not a lot to say. I mean, this team's gonna suck. They're gonna be horrible. They're gonna be horrible to watch.
The worst team in the league next year.
This is gonna be like a 15-win team. They might break records in the worst way possible. I feel for you.
Going after the Bobcats record or what?
I believe Brooklyn has that record, right? It was the Brooklyn Nets. Yeah, look her up. Yeah, they did a whole lot of trading away, and I think they're going to continue to. They'll probably continue to shop Mike Conley. They'll probably see what they have with some of these guys like THT and they're not going to be good. They're going to be the bottom of the litter, and it's going to be really tough to watch.
Yeah. Oh, I was correct. The Charlotte Bobcats own the record of the worst season in NBA history in 2012, finishing 7-59.
Jesus Christ. Wait, that's a lockout year.
Okay. And then after that, it's the 1973 76ers finished 9-73. The 2016 Sixers finished 10-72.
I know the Bucks had a pretty bad season. Maybe 20.
They are number 15. Yeah, 2014 they went 15-67. But they're also tied with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 other teams for that. So
yeah,
that exact record.
So there you have it. They'll be competing for that record for sure. That'll be the only thing they're competitive about.
Yes, I agree.
The only guy I wanted to mention on my Tipsy's Young Talent segment, Ochai Abaji, dude's a winner. Won the national championship at Kansas. They went to a national championship his junior year. Was Big 12 Player of the Year, Big 12 Tourney MVP, and he made the All NCAA Tourney team. 6'5" shooting guard. Senior year average 18.8 points, 5 boards, and 1.6 assists. He's gonna be a guy that they look to see if they can build around in the future. He was a lottery pick, I believe, the last of all the lotteries for Cleveland. So I just, that'll be like one of the 3 or 4 guys to watch on that roster. But yeah, I mean, unless either of you guys have anything else, I think we can move on to trivia and finish this bad boy up.
Yeah, get him off the screen.
Keeping on this same topic of losing franchises, the first question of trivia is there's only one franchise that's won less than 40% of their regular season games ever, total, in franchise history. What is that franchise?
I'm gonna go with Charlotte.
Nope.
Is it East or West?
West.
Sacramento?
Nope.
Minnesota?
Yes, sir.
First try.
And on the flip side of that, the second question is there's only one team that's ever won over 60% of its regular season games. What is that team?
Spurs.
Correct.
Nice. That was my guess.
That was fast. You got that quick. Both of those questions you guys got quick.
Young Pop.
Yeah.
Well, that, and even when like the George Gervin days, they were insane. So I think that just about wraps this episode up. Thanks for tuning in of our Northwest breakdown. Any closing thoughts, boys?
Nope. Got nothing.
For me.
All righty. Well, until next time, cheers.
Cheers. A sober cheers.
So yes, sober cheers. Have a good one, boys.